Welcome here to an all-new wake-up call with Dan Tortora. This is a Tortora and Alford special inside of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora to start off your Thanksgiving week. And before we end the show today, Isaac and I will be telling you exactly what we're thankful for in our lives this season. So, with Syracuse facing off against Wake Forest and losing a game where they scored almost 40 points, we'll be discussing Syracuse up against the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest. We'll also get into Syracuse at Boston College to end the regular season and so much more connected to Syracuse football. We'll also get into the Atlantic Coast Conference as a whole, and we'll talk about college football in the recent rankings that have come out here as we step forward. But before we go anywhere, we want to thank you for being a part of the show on youtube.com, facebook.com, and mixlr.com, all /WakeUpCallDT on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage. And you can also find us on facebook.com /LiveNowDT inside the Cafe Kubal Studios on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, inside of their double-decker cafe on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in their drive-through location. The man that is joining the screen with me here is typically with me in studio, and now we're picture-in-picture, and Isaac has agreed that everything I just said in the intro he's going to memorize and have ready by the end of the show. Mr. Alford, how are we doing?
I'm doing good today. I'm glad for the notice there. We might have to do it another time, but that's some good stuff.
Yeah, you're going to have to do it all. I'm just going to sit here and be like this. I'll let you do it. So Isaac and I picture-in-picture here as we get ready for Thanksgiving week, and we appreciate you being here with us on all of our airwaves and everywhere you are around the world. So thank you so much, East Coast, Midwest, West Coast, and all around the world. We thank you for that. So with that being said, Mr. Alford, I'll defer to you here, your opening thoughts and remarks on Syracuse at Wake Forest.
Syracuse, I'm kind of what you led off with was a bit of a surprise that the offense put up 35 points. It was a nice surprise. I mean, we was looking to see the offense come back. I know Dino said in the last loss against Florida State that they need to go back and do some things different. Everybody was on notice, coaching staff, players, trainer room, you name it. And you know what? Coming out, watching the game, it did look like they did some things different. I mean, it was good to see that Garrett Schrader was a little healthier than he was in the previous game, and you can tell a little bit. But offense did some good things, even though we had some late news coming at the beginning of the game. There was 3 offensive linemen that needed to start the game, the normal starting rotation. So, I mean, given all that, they still put up 35 points. Was, hey, we might have something working with in the years to come here. But I know we'll dive deeper into the game. It was just a shame that a couple of plays here and there kind of determined the outcome of the game, in my opinion. But what was your thoughts?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think, what we were talking about coming in, like you said in the intro, I made note of the fact that Syracuse scoring 35. I mean, this has been a relatively quiet offense in their losing streak, and, losing 5 in a row. Against Clemson, they were able to get 21 and Notre Dame 24. But since then, we saw them amount just 12 points in 2 weeks, scoring 9 points at Pittsburgh and 3 points at home in their home finale against Florida State. So when you look at a team that had given up in those 2 weeks a total of 57 points and only scored 12, the question was, where is this offense going to be? And, I give them credit, scoring 35. And I understand we're going to talk about the not so great side of some of his play, but Garrett Schrader, for the first time in weeks, to me, looked pretty healthy. He dropped back and was able to complete his passes. He looked confident in his throw. It looked like he opened up the game really well, and, his ability to run the ball too. I want to go to that opening series. Syracuse got the ball first. And this is how the opening series went. A 14-yard run by Sean Tucker was the first play of the game. I know I said to you a couple weeks ago against Notre Dame, why are they throwing the ball on first down? And not only throwing the ball on first down, but throwing a dart straight line pass at the line of scrimmage to me and looking down your receiver, and it ended up being a pick six. So running the ball with Sean Tucker, getting a first down on the first play. Then their second first down came with Schrader going to Arondé Gadsden the second, and on a third and long situation. Then we saw another first down come on that drive, and on the very next play, when we got to see Schrader go to Trevor Pena and open the game up a little bit here, their fourth first down on their first possession of the game was a 17-yarder to Arondé Gadsden the second again. Then we saw their fifth first down came on a third down pass to LaQuint Allen, and on the very next play, a direct snap in a wildcat formation to Sean Tucker for the 9-yard touchdown. So I want to, Syracuse's offense struggled to get multiple first downs on multiple drives in the last few weeks. So to see them get 5 first downs on their opening drive and score on that opening drive, gosh darn it. It was a beautiful thing, but kind of smoke and mirrors, because it looked really pretty and it looked like they knew exactly what they were doing. And then, eventually the doors blew open in the second half, as they always do, because Dave Clawson, as I've said over and over again, and I mean it, I don't know if anybody figures out Dino Babers better in 15 minutes of halftime than Dave Clawson of Wake Forest. So I'd love to get your thoughts on the opening drive, because 5 first downs, a score, and Garrett Schrader looking very poised, and this team being put in third and long situations and still finding a way to get a first down.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, the opening drive was a pleasant sight to see. It was kind of interesting. I was listening to the pregame, and I know how much you talk and respect about Dave Clawson and what he does with his offense. What was something interesting in the pregame show was that they were talking about how he likes to defer.
Yeah.
The reason being is he likes to defer because he feels it gives his team a chance to see what they can do defensively against another team. In his mind, he feels like he doesn't want to come to a situation. We kind of talk about this a little later. He don't want to come to a situation late in the second quarter. If he didn't defer, if says another offense scores late and his team don't get a chance to score, then they get the ball back, start the third quarter. And his idea is his offense can sit on the sideline for 20 to 30 minutes without even having the ball. So that's one of the reasons why he likes to defer. And we talked about how much this year Dino's been aggressive.
Yeah.
And if we win the toss, we take the ball, which Wake Forest did win the toss and deferred. And like I said, open possession, just Garrett Schrader hit a couple of targets that he didn't lock on Arondé Gadsden. That was a pleasant thing to see, that he spread the ball. They was able to run the ball behind an offensive line that, again, was a makeshift offensive line for the game. Yeah. Those guys did fairly well in that first opening drive. And you just expect, you wish you would have seen that kind of production from Florida State against a Florida State or Notre Dame, and even Clemson in the second half. And like you said, I'm going to give you credit to this, because you mentioned this, and I think you even asked Dino this, third quarter. And it even happened again this game.
Yeah.
No points in the third quarter. And then that's a terrible stat since the Clemson game, which we know they got shut out in the second half. But, you got the numbers there. But from them, the Clemson game until now, coming out of halftime and not having a productive offensive series, because the game wasn't out of, this game could have been a lot closer than it was to them not having to maybe come down to the very end the way it did. But offensively in the first drive, you would like to see them continue that, which they did in the first half. They were more they had more chances and scored and put a little bit of pressure on that Wake Forest offense.
Yeah, and I was just about to bring that up, and I did ask Dino coming out of the loss to Florida State just what was going on in the third quarter. The fact that this losing streak has had a very unfortunate pattern, and that pattern has been that Syracuse has not been scoring in the third quarter. In this 5-game losing streak, they've only scored in one of the 5 third quarters. They did not score in the third quarter against Clemson on the road. They scored 10 against Notre Dame at home in the third quarter, nothing against Pittsburgh on the road in the third quarter, nothing against Florida State at home in the third quarter, and nothing at Wake Forest in the third quarter. So I said to him, about halftime adjustments and coming out in the third quarter. And what is it about this team? What is it about the halftime adjustments? What is it about the energy? Why is this team not coming out and striking when they have that little break in the middle? And, I know one of the fans listened to it and heard Dino's answer and responded, "What?" And so I know, because there wasn't a clear explanation. And, Dino didn't really give me an answer fully, and not one that I can sit here and remember, and at the same time, maybe he didn't give an answer because he doesn't have one. And, that's something that concerns me a lot. And I know, and I have a good relationship with Dino. I pay attention when I ask questions if I get answers. And, I asked a bunch of questions in the most questions that he was asked the last press conference, and the first one, the last one, and a couple in between. And I didn't get a lot of answers in that. And looking at this, and Michael Jones, too, who got injured in this game, we'll talk about that and pray that he's okay. More than anything, God bless and hope that he heals completely and for good, and no matter what, through God, and he handles whatever comes his way, and that his loved ones handle it well as well. Michael, they asked him about what was going on, why our team's running the ball so successfully on you now more than ever. He said, "I don't know." And, when somebody says, "I don't know," and things like that, I mean, it makes me kind of sit down and say, okay, well, what are we doing to assess the situation? Because "I don't know" is not a good enough answer. And "let me get back to you" is not a good enough answer if they don't get back to you and let you know. So I will more than likely be asking Dino, and why we're ending a little bit earlier here this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We typically end at 11, but Dino's press conference is at 11. So I'm going to probably ask him this again, which is, okay, now 4 out of 5 games in this losing streak, you have not scored in the third quarter. Once again, at Clemson, at Pitt, Florida State, and at Wake Forest, 10 points against Notre Dame. So 10 points in 5 weeks in the third quarter. And you add that up and you say, okay, there's 15 minutes in each quarter, right? So 15 times 5 is 75 minutes. So over an hour's worth of play, almost an hour and a half's worth of play, you haven't scored more than 10 points. What does that say about you and about where this team is at right now? And really, to put it in to perspective, if you take out the Notre Dame game and just talk about the 5 games, that's 15 minutes a quarter times for those 3 quarters. That's 60 minutes. That's an hour without putting a single point on the board. And, it says a lot about a team when you don't strike early, and it says a lot about a team when you don't strike coming out of halftime. Syracuse immediately got out there in the first half, like we talked about, opening possession, getting on the board, 5 first downs, and you come out in the third quarter. Where's the energy? Where's the call to action? Where's the push in this? And, there's a direct correlation between their 5-game losing streak and their inability to score in the third quarter. And Notre Dame, yeah, you got 10 points there. But like I said, you scoreless against Clemson, scoreless against Pitt, scoreless against Florida State, scoreless against Wake Forest. So you're essentially putting yourself in a situation where you're playing 3 quarters a game and not 4. And that's, to take that much time away from yourself and to not get anything on the board is really, it shows us where the team is at, and it's a glaring issue. And, I'm still awaiting the answer to what are the halftime adjustments? What is the message at halftime? What are you putting up on the board? What are we talking about at halftime? Because any team, I don't care what division you play or conference you play or whatever it may be, I don't care if it's Pop Warner football all the way to professional football, if you're not scoring when you come out of the gate in the second half, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to win that game unless you scored 40 or 50 in the first half and you're sitting your starters or whatever that may be. I'm really struggling to find the answer to why Syracuse comes out so flat in the second half.
Yeah, and you know what? And like you said, it could be a case of where either you're not down by much and you're just digging a deeper hole when you can't score, or if you got the lead, you're getting walked down by the opponent, and basically the whole momentum of the first half, you're losing that when you had a great first half. Guys are into the game, and now get into a situation where the defense is on the field again. And you said, you asked Michael, why is the defense being ran on? Again, we talked about coming into the season how light the defensive line was. But, I give Kayvon Darton a lot of credit. I kind of watch him and where he lines up. There's a lot of times he's very disruptive in that line where he's getting lower leverage under the lineman and he's making plays. But yet, sometimes when they double team him, that creates the hole. And then we've seen it even with the Doug Marrone years when we played West Virginia. West Virginia played the 3-3-5 defense. We've had running backs that had 100-yard games each just by, running the ball on that 3-3-5 defense. So, that's something that, that not having that extra down lineman on the line kind of creates a natural mismatch there, 3 against 5, but then you got linebackers trying to fill the gaps. But yet, there was a critical play in the second half. I think it was like a maybe third and 2 or something like that. Wake Forest needed 2 yards. And the running back, I think it was a safety. I can't remember who it was. It might have been a linebacker, but the running back was coming through the hole. It wasn't a great hole because he had a dance with the slow mesh. And literally, instead of the linebacker or safety, whichever one, kind of going down and meeting him head on, he literally waited for the guy. And by the time he waited, he caught the guy at the sticks. And the guy all he had to do was fall forward, get the first down. This was like late in the fourth quarter. But that's the thing you want to get with that. If you don't win on first down, then you're not going to make an offense change. If you're giving up 4 or 5 yards of run, then it's going to be hard for you to get off the field. And then another thing I observed with the defense, and you said maybe it's a Dave Clawson to knowing Dino Babers, maybe even Tony White a little bit, because when you get in third and long, you want to get a little aggressive. Don't just sit back and let them dictate, what they're going to do. Maybe blitz and make them get it out of their hands quicker than what they want. So maybe a hot route, then tackle if your guys are sure tacklers. But no, that's not what they did. They kind of almost let those guys come to the yard marker, run a curl, and catch the ball over the middle, and kept drives alive. So I think it's a little bit on all of them. They got to look at what they're not doing. But go back to that first half. There were some good things. Again, I don't know if it's the second or third drive. It was unfortunate that they had a holding call, took away a touchdown that Schrader threw over and caught the I want to say it was Adams. He caught in the back in the end zone for the touchdown, but it was called back because of questionable holding call there. But just little plays like that, Syracuse in the first half, they didn't let it get them down because they still had opportunity to go in halftime with the lead. But I say that was one of my first. I taught you there's some things that Garrett need to clean up on his quarterback play a little bit in that second quarter, because at worst it should have been a tie game going into half 24-24, if possible. But that sack, those double sacks in the last part of the quarter, which kind of threw Syracuse out of field goal range. Then of course Wake Forest again is the strategy of Dave Clawson. They take the ball and go down and score a touchdown and go up 24. Was it 24-21 or something like that at half?
Yeah. And,
that could have been an opportunity to at least be 24-24 at half. But, those little moments like that, coaching teachable moment to your players, hey, we're in field goal range. We can't take sacks and fall back behind the line of scrimmage. In the first one, even on that first sack, I don't know if Garrett saw the guy coming off the end. I thought the tackle did a good job, but Garrett being so mobile, he kind of moved into the I think if he would have stepped up in the pocket, the tackle would have had opportunity to re-engage the defender. But with him scrambling out to the right, he just opened up the lane for the guy to keep going by the tackle. And then the second one was just all-out blitz, so which got him out of field goal. Well, not really out of field goal range. Andre just didn't get enough on it, but he kicked it. But again, that's a teachable moment. Down 24-21, and Wake Forest is getting the ball starting off the third quarter.
Yeah. As we're here with Tortora and Alford, Isaac Alford, myself, Dan Tortora, here inside of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in the Cafe Kubal studios. We talk about those sacks and different things that happen in this game. Different offensive line. And just a few minutes before the game started, there was the note that the starting left tackle, starting left guard, and starting right guard were out of the game, which caused some shifting. Enrique A. Cruz Jr. came in at left tackle, number 70. Number 57, Dakota Davis, who I consider a guard more than a tackle. He was shifted from right tackle to left guard. Number 55, Josh Alawa, went in at center, which moved Carlos Vettorello, number 52, out to right tackle. And number 74, Jacob Bradford, who we saw a little bit last season, went to the interior at right guard. Did you see any positives from this offensive line?
In the very beginning, like I said, I thought you mentioned that first run with Sean got a 14, and then he had little spots here and there. They had that one holding call again, like I said, in the first quarter, and I think it was the second quarter or whatever it might have been first quarter, and that was very questionable on Colorado on the outside. But all in all, I thought they did a pretty decent job. I mean, saying it's the first time they were out there as a group. And then, Wake Forest has some skilled defensive guys. So there was a couple plays where a couple guys did get beat, and those guys had some good inside swim moves. And I think more game experience and technique will clean some of that stuff up. But you can expect some of that stuff to happen on your first time being out there. But all in all, to say they put up 35 points behind this offensive line, I was very impressed with those guys. I mean, I think maybe the coaches have learned, hey, if we got guys that are capable and just can't automatically throw somebody out there that's not 100%, because they're going to get banged up throughout the year. But a guy at 70% might not be as great as a guy at 100%. You know what I'm saying? So I was impressed. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I saw Sean Tucker look more like Sean Tucker in this game at times. We talk about why hasn't he been able to run, and the pocket collapses so quickly, and these offensive linemen who have been there for a while throughout this season and had some consistency, why are they not able to open up these holes? Now they're playing better competition, obviously, with teams like Notre Dame and Florida State and so on and so forth. But it's, why are they having so many issues with getting the job done here? And that was something that really spoke to me. Was in this game, we saw Sean Tucker get back over 100 yards. It's been a long time since we've seen that happen. The last time Sean had over 100 yards was against Wagner when he had 232 yards. It was back on October 1st. So we're talking a month and a half ago since we saw this happen. And we saw him go 5 straight games with under 100 yards rushing. He had 98 against NC State, 54 against Clemson on the road, 60 against Notre Dame, 19 at Pitt, 52 against Florida State at home. And in this game against Wake Forest, with this line, which saw a bunch of guys shift and other guys come in, 16 carries, 106 yards, 6.6 yards a carry, and 2 rushing touchdowns, which is huge. I mean, we go back and we look at this and I'm saying to myself, okay, so he had his best rushing game in the last 6 games being a part of this makeshift, let's slapstick, put it together offensive line. I think that says a lot about these guys, as he was able to run behind them. The direct snap Wildcat worked as well. So, to me, there was a lot of good things that came from this. And he's 65 yards away from being 1,000-yard back this season, to have back-to-back seasons of 1,000 yards. So he's got to get 65 against Boston College. I would like to hope and think that he can do that. So, I think that was probably the best sign for me, was the opening drive, first couple drives, and then to see what Sean Tucker was able to do. I think ultimately that's what spoke to me the most in the grand scheme of things for all of this. And I think that was huge. I think it was huge to see him. He's a 3,000-yard back now. He did that in this game. So it was good to see him join the 3,000 club at Syracuse and in general in college football. And, he's rising up the ranks. He continues to push up the ranks of career rushing yard leaders in the history of Syracuse football. He would have to stay with Syracuse next season to have any chance of catching Joe Morris's 4,299. And I don't know if necessarily we're going to see him in Orange next year. So I thought that last year going into this year kind of surprised me coming back. And, I think if I could say anything about Cruz, Davis, Alawa, Bradford, and Vettorello, It's that they got him back to looking like Sean Tucker, and that's a big thing because Syracuse has struggled for at least 2 weeks, if not 3 weeks, to make him look anything like himself.
Yeah, no, that is very true. It was nice to see him get back in his groove. Even some other players come in and did some nice things behind that offensive line, but definitely Sean is going to be sorely missed if he chooses to leave next year. I mean, it would be great if he came back. And like you said, I could see him challenging that 4,000 yard mark if he did come back. But I understand, if he had to move on, he's done everything he needed to do for the university. And I think everybody thinks the world of Sean. And, hopefully this offensive line, if this is what they're going to do, they can keep this going on for the next couple of games, the next game and the bowl game. And maybe, next year we can always again talk about the offensive line as a positive asset going into next season too. We thought that was going to be a good strength to this season too, which for the most part they held up. But it's amazing how you bring in a new offensive coordinator, and last year that was the strength, was the run game.
Yeah,
and we know the philosophy changed a little bit with the passing and how much they improved in that area. But you would think maybe they could work on that, get that offensive line, that push for the running game to get back where we're normally seeing it.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest positive that I took away from a game like this offensively. And you brought up the second drive of the game for Syracuse, which was in the first quarter, late in the first quarter, after both teams had the ball for over 4 minutes to open things up. And we saw Syracuse get a touchdown and Wake Forest get a field goal. The ball went back to Syracuse. And on 3rd and 10 at the Wake Forest 45, and cut and paste this all throughout the season, the woes of Syracuse, especially, in this losing streak, these holding penalties have just killed them. This penalty nullified this on Carlos Vettorello. It was a 3rd and 10 at the Wake Forest 45. Garrett Schrader went to the end zone, a 45-yard touchdown pass to DeMarcus Adams, who was wide open in the end zone. DeMarcus getting involved in the offense. Garrett Schrader doing something that we talked about not seeing from him lately, which was spreading the ball out. Seeing him go to Aranda Gadsden the second, seeing him go to Trevor Pena, both of those gentlemen on the first drive, seeing him go to LaQuint Allen, who I've been saying for weeks and said to you that I wanted LaQuint to be more of a part of the offense. I know he's a true freshman, but he needs to get out there. Seeing him catch the ball out of the backfield like a true wide receiver on, the one play that was the 5th first down for the team, and helping them to set up the 9-yard touchdown run by Sean Tucker on the next play. So I love that he was spreading the ball out. I love that he found DeMarcus Adams. I loved how great the play was. I love the response to the field goal and would have went up 14-3. But like I said, this has happened many times, and it's a killer. And I think Syracuse fans have come to expect it, and it's gut-wrenching. But, to see these big-time plays where somehow they get out of it, he eludes a sack, he rolls away and gets the ball out, and you're sitting here thinking, how did he get out of that sack attempt? How did he save this drive? It's 3rd down. They're going to have to punt if he doesn't get this completion, and he throws it to the end zone, finds a wide open receiver, and it gets called back for a holding penalty. So penalties kill you, they hurt you, and these holding penalties on Syracuse the last few weeks just seem too many, too frequent. And when a play kills a touchdown or any type of score, it's really, it's a punch to the gonads. I don't know how to say it any other way. and seeing DeMarcus get the touchdown and them saying, "Hold on, there's a flag."
Yeah,
I just looked up to the sky like I've been doing, going, "You got to be kidding!" Like, as soon as I see that flag, I'm like, "Well, it's holding. It's got to be holding." Syracuse has been getting a lot of.
Yeah, like you said, too many, too frequent. We've seen in this 5-game losing streak, every time there's a big play that Syracuse makes, there's always a penalty on the play and something's getting called back. I don't know if that's just coincidence or whatever it may be, but I know how much our team and our defense fights to get through the line and try to sack a guy, but more than not, we've seen that called against our guys, against, great players. Don't take nothing from them. But, rarely do we see that kind of call come when we're in those positions where I see JT do a great move on the offensive lineman. He's going to tackle the quarterback, and all of a sudden he gets tossed to the ground. But, those things don't happen for Syracuse as often. But, maybe another year in the strength and conditioning program and getting stronger, faster, bigger, maybe that'll put a little bit more flags in the future for the Syracuse team. But, yeah, you're right. Those things do hurt. And I was just same expression that you said when I saw the catch. And I was like, oh, my God, he got behind the defense. And then they were like, what? Wait. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. So, yeah, that definitely, I mean, that moment there, I thought, hey, this is a chance for, like you said, go up 14-3. And the defense was playing well. I think later in the drive, we maybe stopped Wake Forest on the fourth down later that half. But you know what? That just took the little bit of wind out of our momentum stale there. We had opportunity to really, really put some pressure on them. And we still did that in the first half up to the last 2 minutes of the first half. That's why I say everything. The old momentum changed right then and there, as Dave Clausen said. The guy's been around the game. He knows those key moments of the game. First, sometimes you hear in basketball, the last 4 minutes of a half, first 4 minutes of the second half. The same thing applies here in football a little bit. And he knows how to use those moments to his advantage.
Yeah, and again, Dave Clausen, knowing how to adjust, knowing how to do enough to defeat Syracuse. He's been in plenty of shootouts with Syracuse. One of the games in the Dome, over 100 points scored last year in the Dome going into overtime. And so we know that in these high-scoring games, he does enough to get by against Syracuse. And, they stopped their skid. They came into the game with a 6-4 overall record, just like Syracuse, and they were able to stop their bleeding. Wake Forest gave North Carolina hell, and Georgia Tech did the same thing, but was able to finish the game out. Wake Forest came into this game losing at Louisville 48-21, which Syracuse had defeated first game of the season. They lost at NC State 30-21 with NC State ranked 22, and they lost at home against North Carolina, ranked 15th in the country, North Carolina at the time, 36-34, to get this victory against Syracuse. So you see them give up 30-plus points in those three losses. In this one, they gave up 35, but they were able to get a victory. You look at these games and say, okay, against Liberty, they gave up 36, and that's it. So in 2 games this season where they've given up 35 or more, they've only won 2 of them. Those games, you look at I should reword this. In the games they've given up at least 35 points, they've only won 2 of them. They gave up 51 to Clemson, lost that game, gave up 48 to Louisville, lost that. 30 or more, I should say, gave up 30 to NC State and 36 to North Carolina. So you look at that and you say, okay, they lost 4 of the 6 games where they gave up 30 or more points. 36 to Liberty, were able to beat them by 1. 35 to Syracuse, beat them by 10. And then in all the other games that they had, they gave up 15 to Boston College, 10 to Army in the victory, 21 to Florida State, 25 to Vanderbilt, and 10 to VMI. So you look at this and say to yourself, okay, in these 6 games of giving up 30 or more points, they've only won 2 of them. And, in these shootouts, we're only able to best Liberty by 1 and Syracuse by 10. So, Wake Forest has definitely shown they have the offense, not necessarily the defense, and they were able to get out of this one alive and only do that 2 out of 6 times, allowing 30 or more. I do want to make a note before we take a step aside that Sean Tucker now with 3,057 yards in his career in 3 seasons at Syracuse, not even the equivalent of 3 seasons because he didn't play every game the last couple of years. So he's not even in a full 3-season mark here and already has over 3,000 yards with 3,057. He needs 48 yards to become 3rd all-time to be in the top 3 in Syracuse Orange rushing history. Joe Morris is first with 4,299. Walter Reyes, may my friend rest in peace, 3,424. He can catch DeLon Carter in the last game of the season at BC, 3,104. He has 3,057, so he needs 48 yards to pass DeLon Carter, and he needs 65 yards to become a back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher after Syracuse went from 2012 and almost a decade until they got another one from 2012 to 2021. Last one to do it was Jerome Smith in 2012. So after breaking almost 10 years, a decade of time of not having a 1,000-yard back, he might do it in back-to-back years. 65 is the magic number to get to 1,000 this year. 48 is the magic number to get to third all-time in Syracuse rushing history. So he gets 65 yards or more in this game at BC. He will have two amazing feats, one in a single season and another one in back-to-back seasons. And, well, I should say three amazing feats. You get to 1,000 yards, he'll do it in back-to-back years. And at the same time, he will become a member of the top three in Syracuse Orange football history. So a lot's riding on 65 yards in this game up against BC.
Yeah, that's definitely a goal that would be nice to hear. I'm going to give you a little homework assignment. So he'll go back-to-back with getting 65,000. So was it Curtis Brinkley was the last 1,000-yard back-to-back? Maybe I'm for some reason his name comes up with 1,000 yards. I thought he was 1,000 yards rush, but I don't know if he was the last back-to-back to do it. But
yeah, so I don't think Jerome Smith did it back-to-back.
No, I don't think he did it either. But I want to say Curtis Brinkley was maybe the last guy to do back-to-back, maybe. But that's, for, like you said, not even in full 3 years. Yeah. In his first season, he didn't play the whole season, because he went out with an injury, halfway through that season. So, that's quite an accomplishment for the young man to put that amount of production on the field. And, you know what? If he does take his game go to the next level, that would be a good thing for him because, running backs in the NFL, you probably want to get in there as quick as possible with a fresher set of legs. College, he hasn't been that much of a workhorse. He getting his yards, but I don't think Syracuse have really put a workload on him that he couldn't handle. You know what I'm saying? It's like he had like 350 carries a season or anything like that. But he's a special talent. He's a guy that when it all is said and done, hopefully he's in that third mark spot, like you said, and if we're lucky, might get a chance if we'd like to see him another year to don the orange and blue and maybe do one more special season for himself.
Yeah, so Curtis Brinkley was not.
He wasn't. Okay.
No, he did it in his last season at Syracuse. Antoine Bailey also did his in his last season at Syracuse. So
Damian Rose, maybe? No.
And then Jerome Smith was close. He had 1171 in 2012. In 2013, he had 914.
Okay.
So I don't know why I thought that because he was so close. So
yeah.
So Damian Rhodes, if we take a look at Damian Rhodes, it's been a long time since Syracuse had a back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher. And so if we look back statistically at Damian, let's see, Damian. No, Damian did not hit. He hit 900 was his highest.
Okay. I was going to say it might be my favorite answer for Syracuse running backs.
He answered every question that one season in the dome to the point where James was like, the guy's like, he's like, that's not even a choice. So Mongrel had 1,000 one time, 2001 had 1170.
Okay.
So if we look back.
So then this might be definitely a history-making moment for back-to-back.
Yeah, so if we look at Syracuse running back history here, and we look at them by the numbers here, statistical leaders. If we go back and look at this, I'm trying to think here if I was like, did DeLon Carter did it 2009, 2010.
Okay.
So DeLon Carter had 1021, my birthday, of course, because he was a former Jaguar. And he also had 1233. So 2009, he had 1021. and 2010 he had 1233.
So then I'm gonna assume Walter Reyes had to be on that list too. Then.
Yeah. So I would say, let me see here. So Walter Reyes, him by the numbers, and you know what I remember. And the funniest thing, every time somebody says to me Walter Reyes, the first thing I think about is being in Anna Maria's restaurant that used to be on Court Street, and walking through there, picking up the newspaper, and him being on the front page for the record-setting day that he had against Notre Dame in a game that Syracuse allegedly had no business being in. And I remember, and then, I mean, it's literally the first thing I think of when I think of Walter Reyes. So Walter Reyes had 2002, 2003. He had 1135 in 2002, and in 2003 he had 1347.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think DeLon Carter, who would be, and so more irony to that. So if he passes DeLon Carter and becomes third all time, and he gets at least 65 yards, he will not only pass DeLon Carter, but he will tie DeLon Carter for the last 1,000-yard back in back-to-back seasons at Syracuse, and he would end a drought for Syracuse of over 2 decades in that respect. So by passing DeLon, which he needs 48 yards for, if he gets 65, then he'll tie DeLon and be the first back-to-back 1,000-yard back at Syracuse in over 2 decades.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
And I'm assuming
it's funny
Joe,
how poetic that is, which is really
and I'm assuming the top three, Joe, Walter, and DeLon, all those guys probably have that similar trait. And I'm pretty sure Joe probably went back seasons too.
Yeah, well, I mean, Joe Morris with the amount of 4,200. The thing is, it's like you look at everybody, and then he's just like a head and shoulders above everyone.
Right.
And yeah, he had 3 of his 4 seasons. He was 1,000-yard back. So in 1978-79, he was back-to-back 1,001 and 1,372 when Syracuse was an independent. In 1980, he had 732. And in 1981, he had 1,194. So 3 out of 4 seasons, he had at least 1,000 yards. His worst season was 732 and had 4,299 yards, 5.3 yards a carry, and he carried the ball 813 times, 170 times, 238, 144, and 261. So when you go back and you look at it, you say, okay, he carried the ball the least amount of times in the year where he had under 1,000 yards. So, you know, obviously that works into having something to do with it. And overall, he had 4,577 yards when you include his receiving yards, which is insane. And looking at the amount, and just 4,577 yards in total, and all of his touchdowns were rushing with 25. So pretty incredible. But yeah, so when you look at that, it would only make sense that Sean does that, because if he gets into the top 3, he would be in the top 3 with 2 other guys that had back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons, and the guy that he passes, DeLon Carter, would have it, which means the top 4 backs in Syracuse history would all have back-to-back years of at least 1,000 yards rushing.
Yeah, and even listen to you spit out those. Sound like even Joe probably maybe was injured that year. He didn't get 1,000. I don't know. I haven't seen the stats or his gameplay history, but I was imagining, you know, with his production, he would probably had it all 4 years if he would have had the carries and stuff. But yeah, that's like you say, back 1,000-yard rusher. All those top guys had that same consistent theme about them. So, you know, when you produce, you know, you can make records and make it definitely climb the charts at Syracuse. And even with all the great backs we haven't mentioned, you know, the Jim Browns and Ernie Davis, Floyd Littles of the day. So, yeah, you know, that speaks a lot.
Yeah, it says a lot about him. It says a lot about his ability, and says a lot about him really not needing that much time to get it done, which is more incredible than anything else. And with that being said, we're going to take a step aside. Speaking of time, we're going to take a fast break here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. When we come back with Tortora and Alford, Isaac Alford, and myself, Dan Tortora, inside of these Cafe Kubal studios, We'll have more coming up for you on Syracuse as they get ready to face Boston College, who was shut out by Notre Dame. Syracuse lost 41-24. Notre Dame put up 41 on Syracuse. They put up 44 on Boston College. Boston College put up this many on Notre Dame. So we'll talk about the only team that will not be going to a bowl game from the Atlantic Division of the ACC, which is Boston College. They will not be going. 6 teams will be going of the 7 not named Boston College. And so we will talk about more from that, the ACC and college football, right after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. it's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Football studios for this special Tortora and Alford Thanksgiving edition with Isaac Alford and myself, Dan Tortora, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. Tortora and Alford brings you through the entire Syracuse football season and the college football season in general here inside of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You are inside of the Cafe Football studios, smelling good thanks to Witty Wicks. And we're picture in picture so Isaac doesn't get to smell these flavors. He's going to have to get his own Witty Wicks at his place. But happy to be here with you. Cafe Football, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York, inside of their double-decker cafe on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse at their drive-through location. We're with you on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, and MixLR.com, all /WakeUpCallDT. WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage where the MixLR feed is embedded, and on Facebook.com /LiveNowDT. Coming back from our conversation to continue the conversation here on Syracuse in the greater ACC overall. The ACC, what did I say before this game? I said Syracuse in the last 2 weeks, counting last week against Florida State into this week. I said in 2 weeks' time, they may drop from second all the way to the almost bottom of the ACC. Now, NC State and Syracuse have the same record of 3-4, but Syracuse in the standings, NC State is 7-4, Syracuse 6-5. The way it looks right now in the standings, and this kind of confuses me, Isaac, and maybe we can talk about this, but it's Clemson, Florida State, Louisville, which makes sense, NC State above Syracuse, Wake Forest above Syracuse with the tiebreaker, and then Syracuse. I would think that it should be Clemson, Florida State, Louisville, Wake Forest, Syracuse, NC State. Syracuse should be fifth, NC State should be sixth, because Syracuse owns the tiebreaker and they have the same conference record, so the overall record shouldn't mean anything, and then Boston College is 2-5. So I did say that Syracuse could fall from second to fifth if Louisville, I said whoever won the Louisville-NC State game was going to jump Syracuse because of the record. If Louisville won, they would have more wins than Syracuse. If Syracuse lost, if NC State won, they would have more wins than Syracuse. even though Syracuse beat them head-to-head. If Wake Forest won, they'd have the same record as Syracuse, but they'd own the head-to-head, and Florida State already passed them and has more wins anyways, and Clemson's undefeated in the conference. So I said Syracuse very easily, with Louisville or NC State winning and Wake Forest winning over Syracuse, would place them 5th, but the standings on the ACC website and other websites has Syracuse 6th, which doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think it is just for the purpose of standings. Like you said, it's probably definitely going with overall record, but probably if at this date and time it was like a bowl selection,
yeah,
I would have argued that Syracuse would have to be ahead of NC State for when it's time to maybe push out the bowl ranking by conference. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if each conference get so many slots based on where you at, you would think if it's conference, Syracuse would get that selection prior to NC State. So, but yeah, like you said, they were going to go from either 2 to either 5 or 6, and again, it happened. We had a chance to put Wake away, because Wake was 2-4 or something before the game, and now they're 3-4.
Yep.
So we had a chance to put Wake out of the discussion with even talking about within the conference wise as far as Syracuse being concerned, but that's just going to make this next game with Boston College even more important, because you don't want to back into the bowl going 6-0, they're 0-6, and now you don't know what might happen. But yeah, you definitely want to pick up this next opportunity to get a win and maybe get it pushed in the right direction before the bowl game.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as we step into college football, is week 13. Syracuse is 6-0, as you mentioned, and I put out a thing here. We're going to look at what some of the fans are saying, so brace yourselves, folks. I don't think anybody swore in these posts, but
Really? No swear words?
Really? See, my thing will flag if somebody's like saying some nasty.
Oh yes, yeah.
So if we take a look at this, and I did ask you all to answer this question, so I appreciate the people that did on our socials, and you can connect with us on the social media by simply going to Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. And as we take a look at,
can I guess on a comment?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a comment says fire Dino. Get rid of Dino now.
Oh, you said a comment. That's sweet of you. There's about 50 of those. So we take a look at this right now, and it's amazing because if anybody else had any other job anywhere else in this world, people, and somebody walked in and said you deserve to get fired, people would go crazy over that. But when it comes to sports, people think they have a right to go, yeah, you need to fire that guy or lady. So I put first half of season 6-0, second half 0-5. What are your current thoughts on Syracuse football? Chris F said time for a change. And then I'm going to go to, there's a bunch of different places where you all answer this because we posted it up here. So I want to go and check these out here. It's one of the most reached things on Syracuse Orange Empire, which I'm an administrator of on Facebook. You can ask to join that group, folks. I had somebody say to me this week, they're like, wow, they're relentless on Syracuse Orange Empire. And I was like, yeah, I'm an administrator. He goes, I know. And he goes, he's like, I've seen a lot of stuff on there. I go, I post on there. I don't read like all the negative comments. Jeff D said, I think injuries killed them, especially on D. I hope the players feel that way and don't want to leave through the portal. Rich R said, this was the second one that I saw actually when I posted it. Fire Babers going to lose Tucker next year anyway. Dan S responded and said, it's time. 6-6 at this point is not real progress. Not like this. It's got to be a monumental uphill struggle as recruiting is very difficult. Of course, I'm hoping we can win the last game and even a bowl game. And I take some comfort in the fact it's college ball and almost anything can happen. Did you see South Carolina over Tennessee? He also went on to say, hoping they can pull out a miracle in the last game, but it's going to be tough. Since Clemson's game, it seems like two different teams and coaching staff show up for the first half and the second half. So I'm guessing he's saying a coaching staff should show up for both halves of the season. Joel B said Babers has to go. Ken S said a reflection of how the schedule fell. First half manageable, second half full of almost sure losses. I would disagree. There's no such thing as a sure loss or a sure win. And Tennessee can tell you that. So can LSU. So can Alabama. Austin R. said, Babers is a horrific coach in November. Every year except for 2018, he's had a 3+ game losing streak, if not longer. He's not good, and it's time to move on. That's great. He had a magical season with Schaefer's players and quarterback, and I can agree with that statement of, the best year was with Schaefer's guys because Schaefer doesn't get credit, and neither do those guys, and I give it to them because they deserve it. Joel B. said, all the good players are going to go to the portal. And then Mary K. responded, I hope you're wrong, but I fear you're right. Joel responded, I hope I'm wrong. The portal stinks, stops teams from developing players.
Right.
Kevin B. said, severe disappointment if they don't win against BC, don't accept a bowl invite. James W. said, or James M. said, my thoughts exactly. If they can't win against lowly Boston College, they don't deserve a bowl. Also, that Pinstripe Bowl, Fenway Bowl, and Military Bowl, those aren't bowls to me. Better bite your tongue because Isaac is a military vet, and I appreciate the military. He said, when people mention a bowl, Fiesta, Sugar, Cheez-It, Sun Bowl, any game in warm weather comes to mind. I would disagree with you that the Cheez-It Bowl is a ridiculous name for a bowl game, and I want to know how many Cheez-It boxes we have to buy in order to make the Cheez-It Bowl worthwhile. And I would also venture to tell you in the last year, I probably bought the equivalent of what it costs to have half of that bowl to come to fruition. You're welcome.
You haven't heard the Cheez-It Will, the Cheez-It commercial?
You're welcome.
He's ready to get in the game, coach.
Well, Cheez-Its can thank me, and I want my royalty money, and I want my check in the mail because I've been keeping Cheez-It alive for a long time, so you're welcome, Cheez-It Company. And then Doug K. said, insanity, coaching the same way for 7 years and expecting different results. The writing's on the wall, and Lauren responded, exactly. James had more to say. James W. came back, got hot too early. If we went 0-5 to start and then took off to a 7-game winning streak, it would be much more palatable than this. Also, the injury excuse is worn out. It's welcome, and I agree with that. The blame now solely rests with Dino. He has got to get the right players in the right position so the team can succeed. If he can't do that, then he needs to up his recruiting game, get some Notre Dame-type players in here. So to end this conversation, the coaches have to do better. Jan S. said, a slump in any sport is such a hard thing to overcome. Becomes a mental thing. Quote-unquote streak and quote-unquote slump, total opposites. We've had both in the same season. Feel bad for the players. Tonight's loss really has to hurt. I'm still wearing the colors. Cuse. Good for you, Jan. Ralph S. said 7-5 finish, so he's saying they're going to beat Boston College. Scott said played stiffs early, and referring to the first half of the season. Patrick T. said, back of the schedule, far tougher than the front. Hard to have X and O's perfect execution. Has to be perfect against tougher teams. And Bob W. said, you're so right. Chris P., last name is Parody. I think that's pretty cool. He said, current thought, the same for the last 5 weeks. All right, Chris, tell me how you really feel, homeboy. Jerry F. said, sad, one word. Dennis G. said, we played East teams early and better teams late. I guess he was saying least teams early.
Easy teams.
Yeah, maybe easy. People were vastly overreacting is what that word is. Overreacted us early. Still improved from last. I love how when I'm reading it, they're like, Dan, you speak for a living. Well, some people don't write for a living. So people were vastly overreacting us early, I guess, or overact, I guess. So whatever that is. Still improved from last season. Line play is terrible on both sides of the ball. That was supposed to be on. Some people need spell check. I love you to pieces, but sometimes I'm reading this like we're hooked on phonics over here. Terry, Dan, yes. Terry P said college sports are all about recruiting. I do not see that recruiting has improved over the time Babers has been here. James H. said, injuries are in the inevitable excuses. Time for a change. Tom S. said, too many critical injuries. Brian R. said, too many excuses, need a change. A 6-win season is not a successful season. until you change the culture, the results will continue every year. Agree. It's pretty sad that Syracuse is the only school to support in New York. Not true, Brian. There's Buffalo, and they recruit Central and Upstate New York better than Syracuse they have for years. They also sent a guy, arguably the best player in the NFL at the time, to the NFL. Their good old linebacker, and yeah. So I mean, I would venture to disagree with you on that. That it's not the only team that you can support in the state of New York. And I think that's like a cut and paste argument that some people just use, and I don't agree with it by any stretch of the imagination.
But you know what? You can support what you got. It's just like having kids. You have a kid and your kid plays rec ball, whatever. Yeah. Might not be the best athlete out there on the field, but you go out there, or the team might not be the greatest team out on the field, but you go out and you support them because that's who you love. I mean,
yeah.
You support where you're from. I mean, and that's what you got, unless you move and you want to change. I don't know. But I would love to know, out of all the comments, what was the season win-loss prediction for the fans that are reading off this. I mean, yeah, we look great.
Then most of those people are not going to tell us the truth.
You look great, 6-0. I get it. It stinks to be 0-5 after that. But, if somebody would have came in and said if they beat Boston College next week, if somebody told you at the beginning of the season this was going to be a 7-5 win season, what would you have said?
Right. And I think the thing is, if fans heard, and Khalil Mack is who I'm talking about, if fans, heard at the beginning of the season that this was going to be, a 7-5 season, I think most people would have been happy. If they didn't see it happen the way that it happened and they just heard 7-5 and go into a bowl game, I think most fans would consider it a winning season. I think most fans would leave Dino alone, and I think most fans would have felt good. So it's a really good question to ask, Isaac, because I think it calls people to be honest with themselves, which a lot of people are not.
Right, and then even the first half of the season, I know people want to say it might have been easy schedule, but nobody saw Louisville. Nobody saw Purdue. Nobody saw Virginia from what Virginia did the year before. And I was always interested. My thing coming in this season was there was a lot of changes, even with our staff. We bring in Coach Anai, Coach Beck, offense. Coming into the season, I want to see how Virginia played because they had a changeover coaching staff. I was interested in seeing how Clemson played because defensive coordinators in Oklahoma now. You got new OC there too. There was a lot of different things, in the conference itself that I want to see. And like we said, we had Louisville early. So, but to say the easy schedule was the first half, there was no guarantees and like you say, no guaranteed losses or no guaranteed wins.
No. And
in the first half of the season either.
What really frustrates me is in the first 6 games, instead of people being happy, some people were, but, the fanatics versus the fans, the fanatics that, scream like their hair's on fire at all times, even when a team is undefeated, the same type of people that were mad in the down year where Clemson went 10-3.
Right.
And the same people that wanted to fire Nick Saban when he didn't win a national championship within the last few years. Those are just crazy people, to be completely honest, and probably the nicest thing I can say. But, I think, I guess the nicest thing would be to say nothing at all is what Thumper taught me from Bambi. But a lot of people should go back and watch Bambi and get to know Thumper. So yeah, I mean, I think if they saw 7-5, people would have been happy with it. I think, when I look back on it, and I've said this to you and I've said it on the show in Tortora and Alford here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, that 6-0, I said half of those games were against NFL guys, NFL quarterbacks. Malik Cunningham is going to get a shot out of Louisville. Aiden O'Connell is going to get a shot out of he's going to get an opportunity out of Purdue. And so we know that that's going to happen. And then, Brennan Armstrong is going to get a shot out of Virginia. So, you call these cupcakes, but you're playing 3 NFL caliber quarterbacks. That's not a cupcake to me by any stretch of the imagination. And so Brian, I would disagree with you. You can support Buffalo. Chuck B said, beat BC and win the bowl game, and they're right where they should be. There you go. Offense was good last night. Keep that up because the defense is banged up. A good finish will have a positive effect on next season. I'm going to love that comment. Dennis responded, we played as well as we have yesterday. Tony C. said, the first thing is we need to get healthy. After that, respect will be gained. We are still better than I anticipated. So funny how you asked that question, and I paused in perfect radio and TV timing, not having read these comments. So exactly what you said, or would people be happy at 7-5? And here Chuck is saying yes, Tony's saying yes, and just so perfectly happened in the conversation. Folks, I can promise you, hand to God, I did not do that on purpose. Sometimes it just gives me that assist, while a lot of times gives me the assist, so I high-five it. Guy T said, I'd say Dino and the rest of the coaches need to be held accountable. If not, then Wildhack, the athletic director, needs to be held accountable with 2 exclamation points, because he meant that. Anthony L. said, Yogi would say it's not over. Yogi Berra or Yogi the Bear? I'm not sure. Ben E. said, he didn't specify. I always tell people, tell me who you're talking about. I'm going to write back to him right now. Because I want to know now.
The bear or the bogey?
Yogi the Bear or Yogi Berra? Or Hanna-Barbera or whatever. Okay. Ben E. said, thinking Dino might be back on the hot seat. Ken, well, John Wildhack has said repeatedly he's never on the hot seat, no matter how many games he wins or loses. So don't really understand that mentality, or that's the way you go in as an AD going, yeah, I don't really care. This year he's good. And you say that before a game's even played. Interesting. Ken said, not that I ever want anybody to get fired, because I don't.
No. But you know what? I'll be honest with you. I ain't going to say I'm a businessman, but if I give you a contract, you honor the contract.
Right.
And if you just stink in the high heaven, so be it. You're going to stink in the high heaven, because I ain't going to be at Auburn University where I just fired this coach, and halfway into the next season, I just fired. And how many coaches I'm paying on the payroll now? You know what I'm saying? Okay, you stink, honor your contract. You're going to be worth whatever you're worth at the end of this contract. And if I don't renew it, and you don't get another gig, then that's on you. So,
yeah, I mean, I think contracts in college football between athletic departments and coaches should be signed on toilet paper.
That's basically what they worth.
That's what they're worth. Ken W. said, Babers is not a good coach. He's average at best. He's proven time and time again he's terrible at game clock management. Ooh, isn't that why they fired Scott Schaefer? I bet you Scott right now is giggling a little to himself. The Clemson game this year was a perfect example. He actually thought he could ride an 11-point lead to victory. The offense went ultra-conservative. Isaac talks about this all the time. In the second half, and he rode his defense into the ground in the second half. I think Tucker is gone next year. Don't be surprised if Tony White is gone next year as defensive coordinator. Well, I believe Tony White's going to be a head coach eventually, either at Syracuse or elsewhere. That's my belief. Dominic V could be after this season. Dominic V, if they lose against BC, that's supposed to be lose. If they lose against BC, they will have the exact record I expected them to have. I got to read it while I see it, or how I see it. If they lose against BC, they will have the exact record.
So he shouldn't be mad there if they lose.
Yeah,
he gave us 6-6.
Yeah, I mean, if they get loose, we'll have the same record I expected them to have. Any coach they bring in with their limitations on what they pay will have serious issues recruiting depth. Dino's a good man, and as long as he can keep us going to bowl games from here on out, he's my guy. This outgoing class will have the most quote-unquote pros the program has seen in a very, very long time. He started with nothing, then COVID paused everything he's earned next year. I would give the argument that COVID affected everybody. We need to stop pretending like it only affected Syracuse. Because it really didn't affect Syracuse. I think they were one of 2 teams or 2 or 3 teams in the entire country that played their entire schedule without any stoppage.
I told you they should have took the Ohio State method, but oh well. We could have came in halfway through the season ranked.
What'd you say?
We could have came in the middle of the season ranked and ready to go to a bowl.
Well, we're not in the Big Ten. That's not going to happen. So, and it's funny because you need to get 6 games to get into a bowl game, and they played 6 games to get into, and they changed the rules because they played one less game. They weren't even supposed to be able to.
I got to go back to that season and look how many. So I want they cherry pick their schedule. and say, I want these teams to play.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, because the Big Ten wasn't supposed to allow Ohio State based on the amount of games they played, because they played an abridged on the abridged. They weren't supposed to be able to be in the Big Ten championship because they canceled 3 games, and they let them in anyways, which was against what they were supposed to do, because they were supposed to play a certain amount of games. So they only played 6 games and became bowl eligible. It's like, okay, so in that case, Syracuse should have got to 6-0 this season and been
They said, I quit.
done. I quit.
We're bowl eligible. That's it.
Yeah. Then Syracuse would have been like, we need to be in the college football playoff. We're undefeated.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Yeah, they beat Nebraska. They beat Penn State, who was ranked 18th in the country at the time on the road. This is 2020. They beat Rutgers. They didn't play Maryland. They beat Indiana, who was ranked 9th in the country at the time. They didn't play Illinois. They played an unranked Michigan State on the road, beat them. They didn't play Michigan that year.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, they only played 5 games. And then the Northwestern game was the game inside. That was the Big Ten championship. So they only played 5 games to get into the Big Ten championship. And then they beat Clemson, and then they lost to Alabama. And, you know.
But you said it right. You said it right. That was the rule. They had to play more than 5 games to get to the Big Ten championship, which they gave them an excuse.
Because they would have played 8 games, and they canceled 3 of them, and they played 5, and then they let them, they played every other week. So they played November 7th, then they had a bye week, played November 21st, then they had a bye week, played December 5th, then they had a bye week. So they had 3 bye weeks. They played 5 games. They started in the middle of the season. They were ranked in the top 8, and they got to go to the college football playoff. And people wonder why I get so dang mad about this. You know, I'm never going to forgive you for this. So Joseph I said they need to get bigger on the D-line. Injuries on defense hurt us bad. Don B said it was a good season, better than expected. All these games that SU lost, they were underdogs in each game. They're getting better. So that goes to your point, too. Jeremy M said, Dino's gone. Eric H said, he better check with Wild Hack. I don't think so. Wild Hack's not going to let him go until every penny that they spent.
I will squeeze every penny out of him.
I don't care if you go 0-12. I'm going to make these dollars count. So, Eric 8, it's like buying a TV that's broken and John Wildhack's just staring at it in the living room going, someday this thing gonna work.
I know the feeling.
So does my ex-wife. So, hey, she accepted the TV. She didn't ask about the condition. Eric, she didn't say it needed to be a working TV. It said on the thing, at least one television. I gave her one and she accepted it. That's her fault. Not my fault. Eric H said, Babers quits, not a motivator, predictable, and no ability to adjust. Tim S said, I'm breathing easier because they're bowl eligible, but this has been a brutal meltdown. I don't think Wildhack will fire Dino because it was a bowl or bust, and a bowl has been achieved, but he should be fired, is what he said. And then to get to, I think I got some more here. Got a lot of your thoughts coming in. So really quick here, let's see if I can grab another few. I think I got some more that came in. I don't want to miss anybody. So let's see here. Yes. So, we do have more. So the other comments that came in, Tom S said, the more things change, the more they stay the same. JB said, yes, injuries have taken place, but this seems to be happening every single year. We didn't have this injury issue in the past. Is it the new carpet? Is it the training? See, when people say it's the carpet, I say, does the carpet match the drapes? I can't. I'm dirty. I can't.
Carpet? You know, no carpet. Come on. Anyway, go ahead.
He said, is it the new carpet in the football wing? Is it the training? Secondly, do you notice how some teams improve as the year moves forward and Syracuse traditionally gets worse? Steve H said, needs depth. Matt G said, I think it's to the point where we disband the whole program forever. It's been too sully.
Oh, come on now. Stop it.
Yeah, so what do you want to do? Just get rid of the football program? It could work. It could
Where would
work.
I go on Saturday? Where would we go on a Saturday
Listen,
afternoon?
it could work though, because UAB got rid of their football program, came back, went to a bowl game.
Okay, yeah, I guess you're right.
Corey M said a timeout on 4th and 5 just to punt it away. How about a new coach? And Annette replied, said, I don't understand why they didn't go for it. John S said, knew the margin of error was paper thin. They managed to get to 6 wins before injuries and lack of depth came around to amplify every mistake, bag and small. That's big unless you're from Boston. And so always every injury, bag and small. Dunkin' Donuts and bag and small. And so always enjoyable to watch the Rats jump off the bandwagon. She called them out, called them peoples out, fans versus fanatics. JB came back, said, besides disgusted, I feel Syracuse is in free fall for the big 3 men's sports, lax football and basketball. Time for a change. Babers is looking like Greg Robinson. Well, you don't have to say looking like. They're the only 2 coaches in Syracuse history to go 1-10. Nice enough guy, but isn't making a difference. Evan W. said they should step down to Division II.
Oh, stop it.
Joe responded, bold, but will never happen. Evan said, well, it should. They aren't good. They went 6-0 playing awful teams. And then Joe responded, unfortunately, they could be awful for the next 200 years. They still will be in the same position they are when it comes to what division they're in. Evan said, that's sad. And then Charlie E said, you'll never beat the good teams with 3-star talent. That's not true because 1987 team. Aaron M said, easy scheduling first half, difficult scheduling second half. Offensively, the Orange are pretty easy to game plan for. That is true. Because they only have 3 players who can hurt you. They have more than 3. They just don't always go to them, is what I would say. So it's basically 3 on 11. Injuries really hurt. Not much depth. I disagree on that in certain positions. Should have won 2 or 3 of the last 5 if healthy, but that's part of the game. Ronnie H said, when you're ranked in the top 15 and then go winless, doesn't, quote unquote, taste a winning season. And I don't know, Isaac, I've never tasted a winning season. I've tasted a cookie, but I've never tasted a winning season.
Only if you get there before the scouts, you can taste a cookie.
Yeah, very true. That's why we have our cookie spot after. I remember when Isaac was like, we go to the cookie spot every time they won. So what are we going to do now that they lost? Are we still going? I looked at Isaac. I went, we didn't lose. So I'm not going to punish myself more than what I just saw.
No need to break that win streak.
No. Jim A said, same old Cuse. No real studs want to play for an ancient, dusty dynasty. They proved they could beat up on Medicare teams. That might be mediocre. Not sure. Or else these teams got better insurance than I do. So, I was like, man, these teams that beat Syracuse got better health insurance too? That's not right. Don't do that. Don't add insult to injury, literally. Barely beat them at times. This team has no real passion to be good. Lots of talent, but also no discipline. So I say pack it up at the last game. No bowl game. They don't deserve it. Joe said emotional roller coaster with a gif of a roller coaster. And my favorite quote is they proved that they can't beat up on Medicare teams. If for no
some good valid points there, but there's some good fans out there that understand the game, and yeah, there's no excuses for none of it. Injuries are part of the game, but we're just not a strong enough program right now to survive through certain things like that. Hell, I don't think people we didn't even see Devin Leary, we got that 6th win to get to the bowl game off of that, and God forbid he would have been healthy. We probably be talking about 6 in a row right now.
College to get to the
and we probably be talking 5 and 6 right now.
And Syracuse needed BC a few years ago, and if Devin Leary had played, maybe they would have needed BC again.
Right.
So with that being said, we'll take our final step aside inside the Cafe Kubal Studios. Tortora and Alford inside a wake-up call with Dan Tortora. We will be back, and you can expect one thing from Isaac and I. If Syracuse football doesn't do it, we'll beat those Medicare teams for you. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout central and upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first, they fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And then them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant, part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience.
A little something for yourself. Woody Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5, Camillus.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus, where you will find handcrafted all-natural soy wax candles over 60 cents to freshen up your home. We carry a wide range of locally made items, Syracuse, Syracuse Salt, and Chocolate Pizza Company, to name a few. Let our knowledgeable staff help choose unique gifts and keepsakes for any occasion. Gifts for family and friends, and maybe a little something for yourself. Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus.
This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. You know, they can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York. Coming to you, fall 2022. Back here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. This is a Tortora and Alford special inside of where sports meets that thing called life. We always appreciate you being here. Isaac Alford, myself, Dan Tortora, coming all throughout Syracuse Orange football season to you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Cabal Studios, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, inside of their double-decker cafe on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners. Isaac, we got a few minutes left here. Let's jump right into Boston College. They got shut down by Notre Dame. Syracuse lost 41-24 at home. Boston College went up against Notre Dame, and Boston College lost that game 44-0, and that was at Notre Dame at South Bend. Your thoughts on Boston College? They are 3-8 overall, 2-5 in the conference. what are your thoughts? Does Syracuse get this last one? And it seems like whenever Syracuse schedules Boston College, it's like they know, hey, if we run into some trouble, let's make sure Boston College is the last game. What are your thoughts?
It's funny how that does work. You know, Boston College becomes the last key game, hopefully. But this year, we're already bowl eligible, so we need them to get off this slide that we're in. But, you know, I think I was watching a little bit of that game before the SU game, and Notre Dame, I think that game was over by halftime, really. I forgot what the score was, but it was up big even before halftime. But, you know, Boston College is kind of going through the same thing that SU typically goes through. You know, I think Phil Jacobic is out, and, you know, you got a good receiver in Zay Flowers. You know, you got to pay attention to him.
Yeah.
The offensive line was beat up all the year long, and they lost a key guy returning on the O-line. So, but they're always a big physical team. You know, you still can't take them lightly. You got to go in there with what bodies we got and go in there and perform. You got to put points on the board because, to me, Boston College is heavily one-dimensional kind of. They want to get Zay Flowers the ball, understandably. He's almost like their Taj Harris last year for our team. You know, you try to get your best playmaker the ball.
Yeah.
And if you play around with this team, they could make it a long day for you if you don't go out and handle business early, put the game away, and do what you got to do. It's outside in Boston College. This time of the year, the weather is not the best. So, you know, you never know what we're going to need for Syracuse offense to click, you know, in these type of weather conditions. Would Garrett Schrader be able to toss the ball and get it to guys catch it, hold on to the ball? So I would say this game will probably be a game where you got to bring your big boy pants and be physical and try to run the ball on the other defense and gain yardage that way. Keep the possessions low, keep the other offense or defense on the field as long as you can.
Yeah, you know, we look at the weather for this game that we're going to have in Chestnut Hill, and that game on Saturday, it's supposed to be, well, let's take a look at this here right now. I have no idea why it says it the way that it says it, so let's look at the forecast here. I'm going to go to weather.com. I trust them. So on Saturday, November 26th, 52 degrees and rain showers. So going to be a little bit warmer. The west-southwest winds are going to be coming in at 16 miles an hour that day. And looking at 52 degrees and some rain showers. Not snow showers at this point, so that's a good thing.
Is that game time?
And so at game time, let's take a look at game time. So when we take a look at the game time for this on Saturday, now keep in mind, folks, the game is going to be happening at night. Syracuse has another night game going on. It's going to kick off at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So if we take a look at this forecast here, is it going to let me do this? Let's see. So let's see here. So we have, I don't know if it's going to tell me here.
Okay.
Cloudy with occasional rain showers, and it's not giving me the exact hour by hour for this.
Okay, because I would imagine the temperature probably would drop from 55.
Yeah,
that might be more of a day high.
So it's supposed to get down to 38. So
Okay.
it'll probably be somewhere around 40. Well, because that says at night and it gets dark at like 6 something, 5:30. So we probably expect somewhere around 40 degrees maybe at game time.
Yeah, something.
No,
like
it could
that,
turn
yeah.
into snow. Could be snow.
Yeah.
We shall see if it's going to be snow. And I knew that this happened because the backup quarterback for Phil Jacobic last year, Emmett Moorhead, I knew this because I saw the name, sounded familiar. He did play Syracuse last year. On October 30th at Syracuse, Syracuse won the game 21-6. He went 6 of 15 for 87 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. So I do remember Syracuse played Emmett Moorhead last year, and they'll play Emmett Moorhead again. He didn't have a good game against Syracuse. He was sacked 4 times in that game. So we will see what he'll put forward in this one. He had negative 18 yards rushing, trying to get out of sack attempts on 8 attempts there. And then against Notre Dame, he was 9 of 22. Most recently here, 117 yards, 40.9 completion percentage, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He has 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions this season through a bunch of games here, but he's only attempted at least 22 passes in the last 3 games, and his completion percentage 55.8% this season. So I would say Syracuse should be able to gut it out and come out of this thing with a win. I would like to think that Sean Tucker can get 65 yards in this game and do all the records that we spoke about. I'm going to pick Syracuse. If they played Wake the way they played Wake, then I would like to hope this. The only concern I have with BC is it being cold and BC somehow finding a way, because they've done it against the Florida States of the world and Clemson for parts of games at times, that they can make this game a lot tighter and make it like a 13-10 type of game. This is a game where Syracuse needs to blow it out 35-0 or whatever it may be, try and score 40. I'm going to pick Syracuse in this game to win it, though. I do believe they will.
Yeah, I'm with you, too. Then your concerns are the same concerns for me as well, because, again, you're outside of those elements. And you know what? And quarterback for BC might not be the best, but BC can use the recipe of everybody else. They can look at the Pitt game. They can look at the Notre Dame game. We got a big offensive line, and we got a couple running backs. Let's just try to lean on that defense a little bit and wear them out, But if Syracuse can produce offensively, that definitely can take that strategy away, because that's what we've been saying. We can score, and teams really can't rely on that strategy of just leaning on us and running the ball. The difference between Wake Forest is you got a quarterback in Wake Forest that don't even they could have played that same style, but that's not their style.
Yeah.
They're going to pass the ball around the yard. That's what Wake Forest does. So,
yeah.
But with this BC team, they probably can use that strategy and make the game very ugly, and wear a Syracuse defense down, and maybe if the offense is not clicking, take that to their advantage. But I think Syracuse, if they can be consistent on offense enough, should be able to win this game. Now, will they score 30 in those elements?
Yeah.
It would be, if they get 30 in those elements, they battle.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't be in a 35-32 game with Boston College. I will say this, though. Notre Dame, I said they're going to get back in the polls. They squeaked in there, and they went up. Now, I want you to keep this in mind, folks. They were 5th in the polls at the beginning of the season, preseason, for no reason. Then they fell out. Then they went into 25 at 25. Now, I kid you not, and I could have called this thing, they're in the top 13 in the AP poll. They're 15th in the coaches poll. They went up 3 spots for beating a 3-8 Boston College team. They rose up 3 spots in the AP, 4 spots in the coaches poll. We don't have enough hours in today for me to discuss that BS. Beating a team that's nowhere close to the top 25 and getting up in the top 15 in both polls. Shut up, stop, move on. Florida State, congratulations. And their 3 losses, mind you, as well. And so Florida State's here. Tennessee's still in the top 10 in the AP, number 11 in the coaches poll after losing, dropped 4 spots in the AP, 6 spots in the coaches poll after losing to South Carolina, who's unranked. And Michigan and Ohio State are 11-0. They'll play each other for the battle of 2 teams that did almost nothing this year, but they get to play each other. And then Georgia is still undefeated. That's great. So is TCU. USC is up in the top 5 now in both polls. LSU is right behind them. Clemson has to play South Carolina, who just beat Tennessee. And Georgia Tech, believe it or not, firing their AD and their coach during the season, is 1 game away from being bowl eligible. But that game, Georgia. So probably not going to happen for Georgia Tech. But if it does, then Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and anybody else from the Big Ten will probably get in the college football playoff. It'll be a free-for-all, Big Ten college football playoff, if that comes to pass here. So a lot of great stuff as always. Isaac, I thank you so much for being a part of the show. And Tortora and Alford coming to you all throughout the season. We'll have more from Tortora and Alford going on here inside a Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And we appreciate you being here inside the Cafe Kubal Studios. Thanks, Isaac.
Take care.
With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. Want to thank you for tuning in every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, and MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, and WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage. Search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora or Wake Up Call DT on any one of these outlets: Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, and YouTube. And Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the proud exclusive multimedia marketing partner of Lemoyne College Athletics, as well as Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse Athletics and the schools themselves. Check out all of our Lemoyne content on the Wake Up Call DT tab Lemoyne, and Bryan and Stratton on the BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com. You can find all of it by subscribing to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. And get more information on the Dolphins at LeMoyneDolphins.com, the Bobcats at Syracuse.bscbobcats.com. At Wake Up Call DT on Facebook, at Call DT on Twitter, at Wake Up Call _DT on Instagram. And in the meantime, God bless, no stress, do your best. I'll talk with you soon, and happy to start Thanksgiving week off with you. I'm thankful for Isaac. I'm thankful for God.